Bryan, this has been amazing.
Yeah,
and if you didn't pick something up and you stuck with us all the way through the whole 45-minute episode, you have learned a ton from Tunderland.
Well, thank both of you. Thank both of you for the good work you do. You have such an amazing show. You understand what it takes to have a great business. People would really benefit from listening to the two of you and following you. And thank you for all you do for this industry. Really.
Uh-oh, here we go again, Alan. You guys better be ready to listen. And I got some stats that are saying that people are listening up into that 40-minute mark. So you guys need to start paying attention. Keep remembering, subscribe, follow us, because you're going to pick up some great gold nuggets on the small business safari.
Sometimes it takes, some of the guests a little while to get rolling. I mean, people need to be a little more patient.
No way. No, I don't. Are you patient? Well, you are.
Well, no, I'm way more patient than you.
I'm not that patient. I listen to us at 1.5 speed, and even once in a while, I'm like, God, I'm really bored of that guy. Who is? Oh, it's me. So that's why I don't listen to my own podcasts.
I mean, sometimes I think I am listening at 1.5 speed, and I'm like, oh no, it's just Chris.
Yeah. All right. So before we introduce our guest, and this is going to allude to where he lives. So I live in Atlanta now, but I was born in Detroit, or outside of Detroit, in a little small town called Jackson. So I'm a long-suffering Lions fan. I'm now a shorter-term, long-suffering Falcons fan. But one of the guys who played in the Falcons, Brian Finneran, told me, he said, bucket list item, you got to go Lambeau Field. I said, that's the absolute most hated place in the world for me to go.
It's on my bucket list.
So my neighbor, his sister, her husband, follow me now, just follow me.
You need to write a chart.
Was one of the original Green Bay Packer executives. She says, Chris, if you've ever wanted to go to Lambeau Field, I would be happy to give you my tickets because my kids have moved away. And we found it. So this fall, September 28th, the Detroit Lions on Thursday night are going to play the Green Bay Packers, and I got tickets on the 40-yard line, baby.
So you're in the middle of the Green Bay, like, diehard longtime fans, and you're going to be sitting there with your stupid Lion gear on.
And so that's the thing. And all my life, I think I've had one Lion shirt. Yes. So we are going to be going up to Green Bay.
And what does that have to do with our guest?
Because he's from Green Bay.
Da-da-da-da.
Dun, 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 dun. Give us the Darth Vader. So, guys, we have an incredible guest on, Bryan Gottlieb, formerly of Tunderland Home Improvements. But this is the guy that you all aspire to be, right? This is the guy who
we have out-punted our coverage again.
I didn't. In fact, when he first told me the number, what he sold at, I thought he was off by 2 zeros. He said, yeah, man, I sold, and it's gone. I sold it. And the number was what, Bryan?
Yeah, well, all three businesses combined were doing 150 million in revenue, and I sold them all for just under 100 million. So it was a pretty good exit for Green Bay, Wisconsin.
Not a bad exit for Green Bay, Wisconsin. Yeah. That could buy a few season tickets up there at Green Bay, which are hard to get accordingly. But Bryan, thank you so much for coming on. Looking forward to kicking around with you guys, because I think we're going to learn quite a bit. But before we start that, did you really go to Harvard?
It's a really funny story because, first of all, I'm the guy. And by the way, thanks for having me on your podcast. You two do such a great job, and you have so many great guests, and people would benefit to always listen to you. So now Harvard, we'll talk about Harvard.
Well, so most people don't say I went to Harvard. It's a funny story. So go ahead. This is going to be good.
So please know I'm the guy that barely graduated high school. I was the one hiding in the back of the classroom. Don't call on me. Don't make me read. Don't do anything. And how can I get by without doing my homework? I mean, that was too much ADD. But what happened is when I started Tunderland and the business was growing, and when I got to 30, 40, 50, 70, 100 employees, I really had no idea what I was doing. The business was growing beyond my capabilities. And I heard about this executive education program at Harvard Business School. So I applied. I didn't think they'd even accept me. It was just I applied and they accepted me. And I got to tell you, I was absolutely thrilled and totally petrified at the same time. And it was a 3-year class. But what I learned in that process is it's a very blurry line between that which we're afraid of and that which is a weakness. At the time, I was a different person when I was in high school. Today I was passionate about learning, and it's really interesting. It was a transformational experience for me. And, I think it really played into the exit that I had.
Awesome.
I'm still processing what he just said. Blurry line between what you're afraid of and what is your weakness.
Yeah, sometimes
That's got some gravitas. That's a Harvard. That's
That's
line.
a huge gold nugget. I was
Yeah.
writing it down,
Yeah.
and I'm going to go back and re-listen to this to make sure I wrote it down correct. Yeah, why don't you expand on that one? What do you mean by that? What can we take?
Well, sure. Even if you think about public speaking, right? Some people are absolutely petrified to get up in front of an audience, so they think they're not a good public speaker. When in fact, with a little bit of practice, they get more confident, more confident, more confident. Before you know it, they're a really good public speaker. We can't ever think that. We don't want to mistake fears and weaknesses, because it can take us down a bad place.
I think that's well said. I love that one. All right, let's go back to the beginning. You're a high school. You made it through. You didn't get the GED. You made it. Got all the way through it. Did you grow up in Green Bay?
I grew up on Long Island, so
yeah, I was just saying, because that accent doesn't sound like that. Because I went to school 5 hours north, or 5 hours north of Milwaukee. I went to Michigan Tech up in the UP, and I was like, I know those accents, and that's not yours. So you grew up in Long Island.
Yeah, I grew up in Long Island and made my way all around the country. And, you women will take you around the country. You know how that goes. So here I am.
Yeah, that figures.
Here
Life
we
is
go.
good.
Okay. All right. So what did you do coming out of high school?
I worked in the trades. I worked with my hands. I did custom glass and mirror work. I was a glazer. And what's interesting is when I was about 32 years old, I had a back injury where I actually ripped my disc, and I could no longer work with my hands. I thought I'm in big trouble. So I had to learn how to sell. So I became a salesperson. And it's interesting, the things that we think are going to really, ruin our lives, take us down a really good path.
Isn't that the truth?
It is.
How about that? You're 32. You're still working with your hands. You're in the trades. Are you still in Long Island?
No, I was living on the West Coast, out in LA.
Oh, wow. Look at you, man.
I just kind of want to get around a little bit. It's a quick drive.
Yeah.
Got LA, New York, but you're living in Green Bay.
Yeah.
And I think for the elitists that live in New York and the elitists that live out in California, they think of Green Bay as some podunk, horrible, worst place ever, which I tell you, as coming from a Detroit Lion fan, of course it is. But no, having been there, because we're actually going up to one of my college buddies lives in that area, lives in Appleton. It's gorgeous.
That's where I'm actually at. That's where my home is. It's in Appleton. Yeah,
okay.
Great community. Yep.
Yeah. So yeah, great community, great place to be. So I'd say to the people on the east and left coast, stay there.
Yeah, exactly.
Leave us alone here in the middle.
But I love what he said, though. I mean, it's amazing how often something amazing comes out of something that you think is horrible.
Right.
So how did you get yourself out of that?
Yeah, you just quit freaking out and just see what opportunities lie. What? You're shaking your head.
Easy to say, hard to do, brother. Man, I mean, if my back got ripped out and my whole livelihood was me using my back to do my job, I'd be freaking out.
Let's say
for a
if you
long
lost
time.
your voice for a second.
I can't do that.
Yeah,
I'd be freaking out, bro. In fact, it made me think about that way too long.
Yeah, anything but that.
I started shaking.
That's right.
So how long did it take you to go from freaking out to, hey, this might be a great opportunity?
It was a process. Until I started realizing, wow, when you know how to sell, you can really make a lot of money in the home improvement industry. So it was a good run. It was a good run. And then, of course, I worked my way up to a sales manager. And then I had this bug that I loved training and developing people. In fact, I loved it more than selling. I really was passionate about that. So I decided to hang out my own shingle and consult with companies in the home improvement space across the country. It was a great journey because I got to see a lot of different types of companies, and I kept a journal on, wow, if I ever open up a business for myself, these are the things I'm definitely going to do. And these are the things I'm never going to do. And I had two great lists to go with.
That is a great story for anybody. Again, a lot of our audience either thinking about taking that leap and starting your own business, or you're in it and trying to figure out a scale. Just think, if you were to write down all the businesses you've met and the big gold nugget you got from each business you met or talked to, and you went back and reviewed that list, pretty awe-inspiring, I bet, for a lot of us.
Yeah, really important.
So, all right. So you were doing sales. What were you selling?
Four Season sunrooms.
So you're doing the Four Season sunrooms.
Yeah,
nice.
Yeah.
Out in the California area.
Well, in Wisconsin. I was selling glass out in California and sunrooms in Wisconsin, because everybody needs a sunroom in Wisconsin.
That's got to be a hard sell, right? Hey, do you want to use this this sunroom for 2 months so that
It's
you're
because of the bugs, right?
For
Isn't that why you need-
$50,000, I can get you a sunroom that works for 3 months.
3 months? Yes. Look, let me tell you your options. I love it. All right, so you go to work with these guys, and then you start doing the consulting gig.
Yeah.
So you started in 09. What a
Yeah.
great time to really start. I started my business in 08. What a shitty time to start. Just if I was
Yeah.
just 1 year later, it would have been easier. But why 9? What was the opportunity?
I just got tired of being on the road, living out of hotels, missing my kids' birthdays and sports games and all that kind of stuff. And it was just time. I just wanted to get off the road. And look, so I wanted to take a shot at it. So actually, I opened up a sunroom company in 2009, the first business. Before Tundraland became Tundraland, we were actually called the Sunroom Design Group, and we were doing sunrooms. And it was me. It was a plastic folding table and $3,000 in cash, and there wasn't another $3,000 behind that in case it didn't work. So, these were interesting times. But there's nothing like desperation to grow a business.
How old were you when you started that?
I was 50 years old.
So you're 50 years old, and I started my business at 37. And I go back to high schools and I talk to kids and I say, I don't care how old you are,
Right.
if as long as you put the business plan, get the upfront work together. And I highly advise not starting a business with just $3,000 in a plastic table, by the way.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
So you blew out your back when you're
32.
okay.
Ish. Yeah. But, I wanted to open up a different type of business. 2008 was an interesting time because a lot of good people were losing their jobs. The economy was really just taking a dump. And I wanted to create more than just a home improvement company. The vision was to build a brand that was truly woven into the fabric of the communities that we serve. And because what 2008 revealed is a lot of really great people lost their jobs. And that meant there were a lot of great people to hire out there. So what a great time to start a business. And back then, you could do a lot of things where there were empty billboards, and I could cut a deal with the billboard company and say, hey, put my name and number up there. And if I sell something, I'll give you a percentage of the sale. So I was able to pull a lot of deals like pay for performance before that was cool. So pay per sale, pay for performance. And I was able to really build out a business. The other thing I did early on from day one is I set up a separate checking account, and 7% of every single dollar I collected went into this account, whether it was a $100 check or a $5,000 check. That was my marketing budget. I wanted to always have a marketing budget ready on hand with cash so I can continue to grow the business, the engine of the business.
What a great gold nugget.
that is a huge gold nugget because, again, especially a lot of us, when we first start that business and you have that one checking account,
Right.
when it's big, you feel good. And when
Sure.
it's really low and payroll's coming down on Friday, you're feeling really bad.
That's right.
But if you kept that other checking account, it's the same thing my dad told me when I first started my first corporate job. He said, make sure you max out your 401k. I said, I can't afford to do that. He goes, yeah, you can. If you never see the money, you'll never know
Right.
you had it. And you didn't have any money before you got this job, you're all right. And he's right. And the same thing with your marketing budget. If you don't do that, you could kill yourself. You'll kill your growth and the pattern that you have.
It's amazing because it's so important to have, good, solid, consistent marketing. And yet when it comes time to write that check, then some people get the little alligator arms. But the fact that you put it in a completely separate bucket, genius. Love that.
Yeah, look, I made a lot of mistakes in business. However, I think if I look back, when I reflect back on what were some of the really definable moments that helped me really scale this business to 600 plus employees, early on when we started hiring people and I had, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 people, I think about, I have a Harley Davidson because Harley is located in Wisconsin. So everybody's got to have a Harley here. And when I'm by myself, I love jumping on my Harley and going for a ride. And the best road to go down is the one I've never been on. I might get halfway down a road, stop, turn around, smoke a cigar, go back the other way. And that's fine when I'm by myself on my Harley. But if I have 20 other people on motorcycles following me, they're like, where's this guy going? Why are we going this way? Now we're turning around. I would drive them crazy. People need direction and purpose. People need to know where are they going? Why are they here? And what are we trying to accomplish? And I think the whole idea of having a really solid mission and vision early on, something that's aggressive but realistic from the vision statement, aspirational, what do we want to become, and a mission statement that again can be woven into the fabric of the organization. And the mission statement was to do well and do good. And coming from 2008, we defined what to do well and do good means, and what is the purpose of business. Very simply, it's to make a decent profit decently. And we felt if we could make a decent profit decently, we would build a foundation that would be pretty much unstoppable.
I love that you started that with the vision being woven into the fabric. So as you started to grow, you're 50 years old, you got a family counting on you. Did the wife say, "What the hell are you doing?" Or did she say, "Oh man, go get him, Tiger. Here you go."
I got the best wife in the world, and I still had some consulting gigs on the side for cash flow. So you wear a bunch of hats. What was funny is I think it was 2 years in, I had this bookkeeper, and she said to me, "Don't you think you ought to take a paycheck?" And I'm like, I never thought of that. Here I am paying everybody else, trying to keep the edge.
So, by the way, all of our listeners now hate you, but go ahead. So, that he didn't need to take a paycheck.
Right, yeah, no, seriously. Because all right, so when I started my business, I had the business plan, I used mentors, I shared it with everybody. I said, I'm going to break even in 18 months. And I'm sharing this in 07, knowing that I was going to jump out in 08, leaving corporate America, having no idea there's this thing called a recession is going to happen. And everybody says, wow, that's pretty aggressive. And I only had one guy say, well, that'd be pretty solid, man. But in the home service space, it's going to be really hard for you to be able to do that based on the business plan you're showing me, because it was about marketing. And I said, no, I'm smarter than everybody. And of course, just like everybody else, no, it took me 2.5 years.
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah. So,
that's great.
all right. So you kept growing things. You started moving it up as you went through your transitions from folding table to 100 million sale. Those transitions, what was the hardest transition for you?
Look, I think that recognizing that early on when a business is small, a lot of people are wearing a lot of different hats, and it's very easy for the owner to become the bottleneck in the organization. And that typically happens when you have this vision of systems and processes, but if it's not written down, it simply doesn't exist. And I had to get to the place where even the most basic principles, the most basic systems and processes were documented, because without that, you really get stuck trying to grow. And then beyond that is that when I started my business, if you asked me what kind of business we were, I would have said we're a construction company. If you'd have asked me, I don't know, 8 years ago, I would have said, well, we're a sales and marketing company that happens to be in home improvements. But if you ask me what really allowed the business to grow, is we thought of ourselves as a training organization. After all, we teach people how to answer the phone. We teach people how to set appointments. We teach sales reps how to close. We teach installers how to build. We teach homeowners why they should choose us instead of everybody else. We're a training organization. And as a training organization, we have to say then, okay, what do we need to become excellent at? And so when you talk about the challenges of growth is coming up with that list and then executing on it. It's all about execution.
It's all about, I was about to say, one thing to come up with the list. We can all come up with the list.
Yeah.
The next thing is, and that's what nobody wants to hear, is that the next really hard part is if we are a training organization who are going to be woven into the fabric of our community, and that's how we're going to do things, this is the list, but here's what we got to do each and every day. And it starts with showing up.
That's right.
And then it becomes with applying yourself, and then taking it in and learning and building your own skill sets.
Yeah, and if I can share a story with you on how we wove it into the fabric, and how, if done properly, you can actually create your customers are co-producers in your business. And I'll share with you what I mean by that. Our mission statement was to do well and do good. Okay, do well as a business, and then we can do good for the community. One of our product lines was replacement windows. And as you know, when you put in a bunch of new windows in somebody's home, you take the old windows out and you throw them in the trash. And we thought, you know what, that is such a shame that we just throw all these old windows away. So we started working with local artists, community members, business owners, elementary schools, high schools, the Green Bay Packers, the Milwaukee Brewers, and we would give them these old window sashes, and we would ask them to turn them into a beautiful piece of art. And they would create art pieces out of these window sashes. And then once a year, we would display all these art sashes in a public setting, and we would do a giant auction, and we'd raise a bunch of money. And all the money raised would go to help another person in our community. It was called Windows for a Cause. And we actually set a Guinness World Record for the most painted windows in any place. But here's the thing about it. We can't help somebody in our community unless somebody first buys windows from us. The customer is a co-producer in our mission statement. And I think if you think about it that way in business, you can really differentiate yourself by getting your customer involved in your mission.
I'm almost speechless. I got to know how many windows there were, though, for the record. And at what point did you go, hey, this might be a Guinness World Record?
So we were doing this for years. In fact, the first veteran we helped, he was a fellow named John Green. He was a Vietnam era war veteran that was stuck in a wheelchair for 40 years. I mean, just imagine that, right? Yeah. We raised enough money to get him a custom wheelchair that stands up. So John Green can stand up for the first time in 40 years off of windows that would normally go in the trash, painted by people in their community. But anyway, so we wondered, I wonder if there's a record for this. So I called up Guinness. I didn't know they had a phone number. So I Googled the phone number for Guinness. I got on the phone with them and they said, I love this category. We love it, but we want 1,500 windows to be painted. That is, by the way, 2 tractor trailer full of windows. So we had to rent this exhibition center with folding tables everywhere. And we did a community calling for people to come in from the community, bring your kids, bring your grandkids, and do a weekend of window painting. So we had the whole community involved in this to help set the Guinness World Record. We set the record with 1,651 painted windows. It was pretty cool.
What are you more shocked at? The fact that he could actually Google Guinness and they actually answered the phone, or that he did 1,500 painted windows and got people to paint them.
The whole thing is so awesome.
I mean, it is so awesome. I mean, actually, I actually got a little goosebumps. I mean, just thinking about having the mindset to put together what he just said. And then he laid out the other fact that he got somebody to stand up who hadn't been able to stand up for 40 years.
Yeah.
And, I mean, that's just cool, man. I mean, we can talk about, the vacations and other houses and what success looks like on the outside. That had to be probably for you, one of the most satisfying moments as a business owner. Yeah.
Yeah. That. And are you familiar with our Baths for the Brave program? I don't know.
I am, but why don't you just share it with everybody and what you do there?
Sure. One of the things when we exited Sunrooms, one of the transitions in the business is that it's really difficult to scale a business with complexity, and adding complexity to a business is easy. Removing complexity is hard. Simple is hard, complicated is easy. And when you have complexity in your business, you then have to have unicorns to run the business, and unicorns are really difficult to find. And I think, every business could really benefit from thinking about how do you constantly strip out the complexity inside of the organization. So we had to actually exit Sunrooms. Sadly, it just didn't fit our business model anymore. When we took on bath remodeling as a one-day bath business, we ran across a lot of situations that, there are people that really struggle to take a shower or a bath in their own home safely. We've seen a lot of sad stories, and a lot of people in the military that, served our country proudly are literally afraid to take a shower in their own home, and they don't have the financial wherewithal to do anything about it. We started our first bath project we did for a veteran. It was this guy named Mike Alstein who did 2 tours in Iraq. And when he came home from Iraq, he was diagnosed with MS, and like that, bam, he's in a wheelchair. We heard about his story. We had his mom work with us. We entered Mike in a sweepstakes. It was a fake sweepstakes. Okay. He was the only entry. So surprise, he won. He didn't know he was the only entry. Okay. So what he won was he won a day at Lambeau Field. So a private tour of Lambeau Field in his wheelchair, and an evening at a hockey game with all his friends there. And we wheeled him out on the ice to thank him for his service. And we pointed at the Jumbotron that showed that when he left his home in the morning, our guys snuck in and totally crashed his bathroom and made it handicap accessible for him. And that put us on a mission.
Bryan, you make me want to be a better man.
I know. Do better, Ellen. Jeez. Come on. I'm doing good. But you, I don't know. Not kidding. No, it does. I mean, that one, Trump.
That put us on the mission.
Yeah.
So I formed this, it's not a nonprofit. It's just a thing. It's a thing. It's called Baths for the Brave. It's a movement. And it's about surprising veterans with free bath projects just in time for Veterans Day every year.
God, that's awesome.
And it's done by like-minded companies across the country. We all participate in it. We contribute our labor, our materials. Last year, we crashed bathrooms in 23 states all at the same time. We've done over $1.5 million in free bath remodeling, and it's super cool.
That is super cool. I'm telling you, man, it's just, that's the stuff. Again, going back to it, when am I really cool and really excited about it as a business owner? I love seeing my people solve problems that I can't solve, or I love them coming together. But when you get to share some of that stuff with your community, as you talked about, that's just, again, the money that comes with the thing. And we talked about outside looking in, oh my gosh, you sold your business for 100 million. Oh my God, you're me. But when you go back and you say, this is my definition of success, what would you say is your definition of success? And if it's about money, that's great. But I knowing as much as I know about you, not a lot, but enough, what would you call your definition of success?
So my definition of success is leading the best version of myself and being committed to that, right? Like to perform to the best of my ability on a daily basis. But to do that, my path to realizing my full potential travels through other people first realizing theirs. The more I help others realize their potential, the more I'm realizing mine. So it's kind of like a partnership. I do a lot of mentoring for people, and I don't charge for it. I don't need to, I just like to help others, because the more I help others, the more it feeds me.
Yeah, absolutely. Amen on that. We always joke, I'm in a monthly mastermind group here locally in Atlanta, and we actually just had our meeting this week, and we joked, hey, if anybody ever finds that business that has no employees, no customers, sign me up, because I'm ready to do that. But with all the headaches, you got up to 100, actually more than that, you got to 600 people?
600 people. Yeah, well, it's 3 different businesses, because out of the Tungeland business, I grew 2 Renewal by Anderson window locations, and then a jacuzzi bath remodel business in Arizona. I sold the Arizona business to Jacuzzi. They wanted to replicate. They wanted to own company stores, and they used that business as a platform. I sold my Tungeland business to Leaf Home Enhancements, which is number 2 on the top 500 list. Huge company, really great people. And I sold my Renewal by Anderson businesses last year to the executive leadership team. So it was
to the people that you trained and grew.
Correct.
Yeah. Isn't that amazing? Yeah. I love that part. So, so you're in Green Bay, you're running Tungeland, you're growing it, and you decided to get into the Renewal by Anderson, which is a franchise type business. Saw that.
Dealer, yep.
Yeah. So a dealership. Okay.
Yep.
How in the hell did you get to Scottsdale, Arizona to do jacuzzis?
Well, Arizona is a great market, because I went out there with some friends, and we were going to the mall. If you go to the mall in Appleton, Wisconsin, Tungeland is there. 5 other home improvement companies are there. And everybody's setting leads at the mall, trying to, they've got their displays and they're hawking people in the mall. I went to Arizona. I'm like, one thing that stood out to me is there's no home improvement company in the mall. And I'm like, where is everybody? So I went to another mall, and there was no home improvement company at a mall. And I'm like, this market was just, in my opinion, it was asleep at the wheel. It's an aging market. It was ripe for, I think, disruption. I opened up the business. I moved a team of people out there that were ready to go, and we grew like crazy. And I opened it up, and a year and a half later, sold it.
Wow.
Yeah, it was amazing. Right. So a private equity company. Yeah. To Jacuzzi.
Okay. Jacuzzi. Yeah. Amazing. I just think that's so fun, because you just said simple and complex. As I've opened up another branch of my Trusted Toolbox out in Athens, which is only an hour and 10 minutes away from my office.
Yep.
But it's complex. And so you said, hey, you know what? I've been from LA to Long Island, and now I'm in Green Bay. I'm like, what the hell? I can run a business in Scottsdale. I mean, there had to be some thinking through that. I mean,
that's not even a direct flight, I'm sure.
Is there a direct flight from Appleton?
Yeah, there is. But it's interesting. As you know, Chris, as you know, and that was an important part of it, by the way, how easy is it to get back and forth? It's 3 hours, on a flight. But the most important thing to replicate is culture, right? So that first and foremost, you have to make sure you can replicate your culture, because your culture is what holds up all of your systems and processes. Because if people don't care about it, then they're not going to do it. And here's the other part of culture. I would give tours of my business anytime somebody wants a tour, even if they're a competitor. I could care less. You have a tour, because if you want to copy our performance, you first had to copy what goes on inside of our people's heads. and that's culture. And when you have a strong culture and you think of yourself as a training organization, look, that's positives and negatives to that. All of a sudden you have all this bench strength and you have to do stuff with these people because you have all these people that are developed and trained and taught, and now they want to grow. And if I don't give them an opportunity to grow inside of my organizations, they'll find another place to grow. And so I need to create opportunities for them. And that makes, by the way, replication quite a bit easier.
Yeah, that's great. Again, the phrase "culture eats strategy for lunch." I just love that one. And I've also said this in your company: you have a culture in your company, whether you accept it or not, and whether you intentionally developed it or not. You have a culture, and you better figure out what it is, because that's what's going to drive success.
You have a culture, and by the way, the lowest level of acceptable behavior is your culture. The lowest level of acceptable behavior that an owner tolerates, in part, defines what your culture is.
Wow.
Yeah, he dropped that one on me. Actually dropped that in social media, and I saw that one, and I forwarded it to my sales manager and said, bring that to your sales team.
Well,
and just know that, that's the beautiful thing. Home services it's a tough business. It's a unique business, but it's also can be a rewarding business, especially in our world. We redo everything from bath and kitchen remodeling to decks, down to the punch list, the handyman stuff around. So you're taking care of people's number one asset. I just got done saying this on the radio this week, is that for a lot of people, their home is their number one asset in their portfolio. And if you're not helping them with it and making them realize that you're the best choice for them to keep their number one asset in perfect performing health, then we're not doing our job. And so I think that line, though, is that your culture will resonate out there with customers. And you got to know that, especially as a business owner, because if you can't understand what your culture is and really know if it's going the right way, you might not be presenting yourself like you want in the marketplace.
That's right. And the owner, by the way, can inspect their culture by looking at how are we hiring people? What is that process like? How are we terminating people? What's that process like? How are we promoting people? And how are we compensating people? Those are the four buckets of inspecting culture: how you hire, fire, promote, and compensate. Who you hire, who you promote is eventually who you become. And we just need to always be cautious of doing it properly.
Yeah. No, that's a great one. As you were growing, so here you go. You start your business at 50. You get going. What were some of the inside the company? What were your favorite things to do, and what were your most hated things to do?
Well, when I will make a confession, the business was not always perfectly wrong. Okay, to be clear, I remember.
Was it perfect every time, every day? Come on, Bryan, come on.
There was a time when I had a line outside of my door with people waiting to ask me a question so they can go and do their job. Talk about being a bottleneck. So because I would be very busy doing things I had no business doing. I remember trying to figure commissions and navigate my way through QuickBooks and all. And why am I doing this? And I think, again, one of the lessons is, how do you hire to your weaknesses as soon as possible? But know that you're probably the worst person to onboard your weakness. If you're not good, do you really want to be the one to teach them what to do?
Good
so
point.
It's also important to give that person, when you hire to your weakness, make sure they have a loud voice at your table, because they're going to bring a totally different opinion and you need to hear them. So I think my favorite thing to do was to really create personal ownership, that everybody thinks of themselves as an owner of the business, and to give them opportunities and to make a difference in not just in the community, but also training each other and to care about themselves, to care about each other, to believe in themselves and to believe in each other. My favorite thing to do was probably developing others. My least favorite thing to do was anything regarding paperwork. So I took all the drawers out of my desk. I built a desk with a flat slab of wood. And I thought, if there's a piece of paper in my office, it's in the wrong place. That means I'm the bottleneck and somebody's not empowered. So that was just kind of like my little canary in the coal mine.
All right. So everybody, gold nugget, you just heard it. Go back to your office, rip your desk out, throw it in the back, rip your drawers out, and just put a piece of plywood up on some stilts or
that's right.
Or what's the other thing?
Sawhorses.
Is that what we use in our business? Thank you, sawhorses. Hey, don't worry, I'm a man of the trade.
I'm just a commercial real estate. What do I know?
Come on.
I think the secret, though, to developing people is that, look, my wife and I together, we have 6 kids, right? So we've got a lot of kids. We can all start another business with them. So we've got 6
Brady
kids.
Bunch.
And there was a time when they were on training wheels on their bicycle, right? And when you want to take training wheels off, you put your hand on the back of the bicycle and you start walking and running behind them. And you're like, you can do this, you can do this, you can do this. Look, you can do this. And then you let go and they're like, look at me, daddy, I can do this, I can do this. It's because belief is transferable. The child didn't believe but the father believed. The father believed in the child more than the child believed in themselves at that very moment. But through that process and through encouragement, you can actually transfer belief. The same is true with your employees. You've got new people in your business doing new things that they've never done before. They have FUD, they have fear, they have uncertainty, they have doubt. And you want to be able to encourage them that you've got this. This is why I believe in you. This is why you're going to be successful. Belief is transferable. And when you create an environment where people believe in themselves, the business growth will absolutely take care of itself.
Hey, man, I just love this stuff. I mean, and this is why, by the way, he is not published yet, but he is going to join the Published Authors Club book soon. By the time you hear this podcast, it'll probably be out and ready to rock and roll. So, but he's dropping so many great gold nuggets, because I talk about this with our sales team all the time. Your sales guys fall to their lowest level of belief when they're in front of a customer. And what I tell all my handymen is that it's right up there on our mission plaque in our office. And every time we come in for training, it says it right there. You are the face of our company. It's not Chris's company. I don't want everybody. You've never seen a billboard with my face on it. You've never heard, now again, I have a lot of quote unquote friends in Atlanta because they all ask for discounts. Oh, no, Chris knows me really well. Can I get a discount? But I told him, man, you're the face of the company. You're the artist. You're the one doing the work. You're the one they're going to remember. If you're the salesperson, they're the one they're going to buy from you. They're not going to buy from Chris and the Trusted Toolbox because it's got a really cool name. They're buying from you and your belief. And if you don't believe in it, then you can't do it. And so getting that, it's one thing to say it. It's another thing to just keep. And then when you see them start to do it, you start to see it happening. We just hit our 700th Google review, which doesn't sound like a lot.
Great.
Oh, it's a huge number.
But my closest competitor only has 200 here in Atlanta.
Yeah.
So that has been phenomenal. Just great. But it shows the belief, because if somebody's willing to go out there and type a review for a handyman, that means that they took the time to go out there and let their fingers do the walking. And that's talking so loud, right?
Chris, you mentioned football before. If you like college football, you can see the players with the stickers on their helmets, right? Adults need stickers too. We do that. Our installers, our employee installers, is we would give them red stars for their driver's door when they got a review for quality, safety, productivity, and social proof for reviews. And they would get stars for their door and a bag of beef jerky. And these guys would compete for stars on their doors and bags of beef jerky. But now they're driving around town with 27 stars on their door, and it's their truck, it's their stars, it's their pride, it's their. And when we tell a homeowner, oh boy, you've got a 27-star installer showing up at your home today, they're going to take great care of you. It just does so much for a full circle of just belief.
Love it.
What I love is
the beef jerky.
Adults need stickers too. I think that should be
the title of the
episode.
Because
I always say, do I need to get you a coloring book there, Snowflake? Let's go. But adults need stickers. No, we do, because again, back to what we talked about, when your vision and your mission is being intertwined in the into the community of what you do. When we talk about that in our company, people want to be part of something bigger. If my handyman, I call them my lone wolves that have joined our wolf pack. And that with our wolf pack, you can get better, you can do more, you can provide for your families, you'll hit your own personal and professional goals. But they want to hear that we're doing things like with Children's Healthcare of Atlanta and giving back, and we're actually doing something really cool, Alan. I didn't do something as cool as Bryan, but I don't
think anything we do is
it's
cool
not.
as Bryan.
It's just not. But I got to tell everybody what we're doing. So this kid got shot in the face. He's an 18-year-old kid, and his friend shot him in his face in his own basement. And the kid's having a lot of problems, and he's got a single mother who runs owns her own yoga studio. And a friend turned me on to her and said, "Hey, look, she needs help. She has nowhere to bathe this kid in his house. There's nothing that's accessible." And so with the NARI organization and with us leading the charge, we're remodeling her bathroom.
Awesome.
So that the kid can actually have a shower and have a decent life. And rehab. So yeah, it's pretty cool. But that's been one of the
Thank you for doing it, man. Thank you for.
I appreciate it, but it's not as big as what you did, but it's something,
No, that's not, actually, I don't agree. I think when you make a positive impact in the life of just one individual, that's how you take part in changing the world.
Yeah. Yeah, I love that. Yeah, that's awesome. All right, so Bryan, let's talk about your book. What's the name of your book, and how can people be able to find it, and when's it coming out?
So the name of the book is A Secret. That's not the name of the book. It's not called A Secret. The name of the book is being released in 3 weeks.
Okay.
So
we're laying this down in August of 2023.
I will tell you first. What I tell you it's about culture, leadership, and people development specifically for this industry.
Beautiful. Love that. And when it comes back out, we'll probably pop back around and talk about another book that you can add to your library, because one of the things we're going to talk about on my chrislalamia.com website is I'm going to start putting the published books out there and things that I have in my library, because I got a big bookcase in my office. Bryan has one behind him in his own office right now. And so we're going to put out books that have helped me over the years run the business and help.
I like that idea.
Yeah.
That's
so. That's awesome. Well, I love that book title. Well, I don't know love the book title. I don't freaking know it. It's a secret. Don't go look for a secret. There is a book out there called The Secret.
Confessions. There is.
Yeah, that's awesome. So, Bryan, we're coming to the end of the show. How else can people? I mean, what are you doing now? So you just got done. You've sold your business. I do know you're getting out there. You're not going away. You got things you got to say because you got to give back. So, what have you been doing, and how can people hear about you?
Yeah, well, I do a lot of keynote speaking. I'm speaking. You mentioned Nari. I'm their keynote speaker out in Vegas this year, so that'll be fun. I'm speaking at a Yoho conference. I'm speaking at a Pinnacle conference. And I'm consulting with a couple of select companies. And look, you know what I do is I talk to strangers. When I'm on any social media and somebody is struggling with something, I said, just give me a call and we talk. And I try to help strangers, and it's kind of cool. It's just trying to make a positive impact in this world. And I'm just having a great time. I'm just writing a book is a challenge. It's a challenge. And
I hear you.
I plan to write the next one.
I wouldn't know.
Yeah. So my book, From the Zoo to the Wild, Ellen, is a published author and on Amazon. You can go find it out. My book title is not a secret, From the Zoo to the Wild. Your Guide to Entrepreneurial Freedom and Wealth. You're right. It was a process. It was hard. And I tell you what, it was a process, all right, to get all that out. And somebody asked me, hey, when's that second one coming? I said, ooh, it's still smarting because it's so hard to write. I said, now, granted, I am trained as an engineer. So I've got my master's degree in engineering, where in my thesis, my advisor wrote, this is gobbledygook, go to the English department to learn how to write. And so for me to write a book was a big feat, similar to you going to Harvard after coming out of high school. So that's awesome. You have been great. Bryan Gottlieb, you can see him out there. Find him. I see him a lot on Facebook. That's where I see you probably the most. I don't know. You're on LinkedIn at all?
I mean, I'm on it and I check it like once every 2 weeks. Oh my gosh, I need to check my LinkedIn, that kind of stuff. But you can always find me on Facebook. It's an open profile. So
what are you doing for fun? You got the Harley, you still riding that?
Yeah, we got the Harley, we got the house. We just moved into our new home a few days ago. We've been building it for 2 years. So here we are. I'm sitting in my cigar room right now. This is my man cave cigar room.
Well, that answers question
kind of fun. And
yeah, man, that's awesome. So your favorite feature of your house is
the cigar room. Yeah,
the cigar room. Nice. Yeah. All right. What is a book you would recommend everybody that they need to read?
Two books. Okay. If you want a book on personal development, it's The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, in my opinion.
Classic.
If you want a book on strategy, it's Sun Tzu, The Art of War. In fact,
hey, I have both of those in the book. So what I tell everybody is The 7 Habits. I'm through 3.5. Sun Tzu, The Art of War. That is a great one.
One of his teachings, that which you leave behind makes your enemy stronger, has to do with when you leave a battlefield, if you leave like an arrow or food behind, the enemy comes on, they grab it. Now they're stronger because of it. In business, if you think about it, that which we leave behind makes our competitors stronger. The person we don't take care of, the person we don't respond to when they reach out to us, that, all of these missed opportunities actually make our competitors stronger. So leave nothing behind in business.
That's a great one.
Brilliant.
Oh, what a great book. Yeah. 2 great books. And Sun Tzu, I'd say it's a thin book, hard read. I actually had to buy the one saying how to basically interpret it for business. So I've got both books. I got the Sun Tzu Art of War and then Sun Tzu Art of War. It basically translated for business. It was so hard. Good stuff.
Yeah.
All right. What's a customer service pet peeve of yours when you're out there as the customer?
Well, having just built a home, I can share with you that, look, I think it's mutual everywhere is communication, right? It's all about, you know what, we can handle a problem, but you just got to talk to us, you know, and the lack of communication to me is really frustrating. Or being transferred, you know, when you call into a place and they put on 3 different, trying to reach somebody and you're back and
can't
forth,
help you.
now I'm in
Yep.
voicemail and, you know, just not getting called back. It's all communication. But
Yeah, no, that's a big one actually. And things for me don't always go right in my business either. I know this might
Is that
sound,
right?
I know,
Sure.
just every once
I
in a while.
thought it was all champagne and caviar for you, Chris.
It is,
and
and
Camelot.
and going to
toolbox.
Green Bay Lambeau Field. There we go. But no, and I lead up to some of these really difficult conversations I have to have if I have to get involved with something that's not going right. And you realize that, like you said, communication. Just tell me it's wrong, and then we can figure something out.
Yeah, the good news is in the service business, the interesting thing about the service business is that it's not about the secret to business isn't about getting it right the first time. I mean, you want to, but the real secret to business is getting it right the second time. It's about service recovery. It's like if you go to a restaurant and you order a steak and you order it rare and it comes out well done. You're like, hey, the steak is well done. You send it back. If it comes out rare, you're fine. But if it comes out medium and then it comes out raw and it's all over the place, now you're kind of pissed off. So it's all about service recovery, and you can really create a raving fan if you're excellent at service recovery.
That's a great line. I agree completely on that, because in the construction world, especially, things just don't always go right. It's, you know, again, coming from the world of consulting and coming from banking, and, you know, you can't just throw 25 programmers at something and make this program work. You can't throw 25 people at a job. And
You're right, Chris.
people ask me, is like, well, the expectations, what are they like in the construction world? I said, they're very low. To be honest with you, most of the people expect a very low performance.
Yeah.
So we don't have a high bar to get over. And when sometimes you don't even go over that bar, you sit there and kind of shake your head and say, what happened? But again, service recovery, that is the win. That's the win in our world. And when you, what I tell my guys all the time is set the expectation so we can exceed it. And if you do that, that's called communication.
That's right.
And yeah, that's great. All right. So give us a DIY nightmare story.
Well, I'll give you a construction nightmare story. All right. And by the way, it's my fault. Okay. When I was 17 years old, because, you know, when I was 17 years old, I was just getting started in the industry, working with my hands. And I was working in a high rise. I was on the 3rd floor of a high rise. And my job, they told me, hey, we're prepping this powder room, take everything off the walls and ceiling so we can paint it. Right. So I'm in there, I'm pulling all the hardware off. And on the ceiling is a sprinkler head. I'd never seen one before. I didn't know what it was. So I stuck my screwdriver in there and to try to unscrew it, and I set the sprinkler off. And I mean, I've never seen so much water come out of anything in my life. And I'm trying to hold the water pressure back with my thumbs, which, by the way, does not work. And the water keeps coming and the homeowner comes in, sees the water just flooding in our new marble floors. And I said, can you call somebody? She calls the maintenance person. He's not in. I get on the phone with the maintenance person. He tells me how to go into the basement to shut the water off. So I have to go into the basement of this high rise. I finally figure out how to shut the water off. I come into the lobby. Now the fire department is there, and there's water dripping 3rd floor through the 2nd floor apartment, through the 1st floor into the lobby. And I'm like, 17 years old. Yeah, talk about how to get fired.
That's definitely in the top 5. That is in the top 5,
absolutely.
Because you're sitting there. Oh, right. We've all done. Well, I've done this. You're like trying to stop it with your hands. You're like, oh my God, it won't work. It won't work. And they're like, all right, what do you have to do? Well, I have to let the water go, and I have to run away 3 stories down to find somewhere to shut this off, where I don't even know where the hell I'm going.
That's
I'm
right.
Like, that's 17. You want to?
17.
At 17 years old. Yeah, you're like, should I just walk away now?
Yeah,
that's a good one, brother. That's good. Bryan, this has been amazing.
Yeah,
and if you didn't pick something up and you stuck with us all the way through the whole 45-minute episode, you have learned a ton from Tunderland.
Well, thank both of you. Thank both of you for the good work you do. You know, you have such an amazing show. You understand what it takes to have a great business. People would really benefit from listening to the 2 of you and following you. And thank you for all you do for this industry.
Really appreciate that.
Thank you, Bryan. And this has been awesome. All right, guys, go out there and make it a great day. Go up that mountaintop and let's go find out what success looks like for you. We're out of here.
Cheers, Bryan.